provided in part by Kabbage, who has helped thousands of restaurants access the financing they need. Apply online for a line of credit of up to $250,000. Learn more at kabbage.com/foodable.
Hello and welcome to Feeding the Future podcast here live at Foodable I/O 2018 in Chicago. My name is Yareli Quintana, and on this episode we're going to be talking about lifestyle brands. So today I have the pleasure of hosting Rachel McLaughlin. Here she's the director of marketing at And Pizza, and she spearheads the brand's evolving digital and content strategies, and she's highly focused on personalizing the experience for her consumers. I also have co-founder and CMO of Pincho Factory, Otto Othman. And Otto is really in charge of building a culture and social media and technology drive that really has built a cult-like following in Miami. And then I also have Vice President of Coffee at Intelligentsia, Jeff Watts. Hello. And Jeff has a pretty extensive experience here. You have built some of the standards around value in coffee globally. So really exciting panel. We have a lot to get through. But our focus today is lifestyle brands. So let's dive right in. What does a lifestyle brand mean to you? Why don't we start with Rachel?
Sure.
Yeah.
So to me, a lifestyle brand, it really comes down to two things. I think number one, authenticity, and number two, specificity. And thinking about, the best lifestyle brands out there, to me, it's brands that can communicate with their consumers in a voice and in a tone that is authentic, and it feels like they are talking to, a friend or a family member. Their content is authentic, and just in terms of product transparency, they're real with what they offer, and the brand goes much deeper than just the products and services they sell.
Yeah, correct. Completely agree. Times have changed, right? So when people look at brands, they don't necessarily just look at the product. It's the values of the company.
Yes.
Is it what the brand stands for? What's the mission? What's the purpose? We, as a whole, are more connected, so the consumer is more enabled. So when choosing where to spend their dollars, they want to spend it with brands that sort of connect to them on more of an emotional level than just what we sell. In our case, is food, right?
Yeah.
So it's a crazy, amazing time to be building brands these days.
Jeff, what would you add?
Yeah, well, I agree with those things. I think, to me, lifestyle brand is normally a brand that has a point of view, that is doing something or striving to do something more than just sell products, that really has a personality is probably the wrong word, but that has a purpose beyond just moving units, that is got some kind of an agenda, an activist mentality. I think about what were the brands that were lifestyle brands to me growing up, and the one that always pops into my head is Stussy. I don't know if you remember. Might be too young for Stussy, but it was a skateboarding brand, and there's something about it. I didn't know much about skateboarding. I didn't know anything about fashion. Didn't care much about fashion, but yet somehow I wanted to wear Stussy stuff, and I think it was because there was a sense of attitude behind it, and that was its appeal. So I guess when you think about the things that are held up as lifestyle brands or as examples, you have things like Apple, or you have things like Patagonia, or you have Armani, and a lot of them are fashion brands. Some of them are tech brands. The fashion ones, it seems like their appeal, what makes them a fashion brand that moves into this lifestyle space, is that they present something that other people look at and identify with and say, hey, I want to feel that way. Yeah. So they do make people feel a certain way. But that's where it's interesting. This group, none of us are in fashion.
Right.
We're making things that give people other sorts of pleasure.
Correct.
And they it's very different if you ask that question about what makes a lifestyle brand in the world of fashion versus the world of food.
Yeah.
I think you start to put your finger on a lot of key differences, and that's where what I heard from you is authenticity and emotion and purpose and mission, and those are things that I think do define, to me, lifestyle brands in our space.
Yeah. And I think not to take away from fashion, but I think it's a lot easier for you to become a lifestyle brand if you are a fashion brand, right?
Yeah.
When you're
Well,
a
the
food,
product
right? The product
extensions and-
extension, like
yeah.
for food, it's a little bit more than meets the eye, right? It takes a lot more work for us to sort of cross into that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you don't hire Ronaldo or David Beckham to eat your tacos.
So that brings me to my next question. Is there some sort of formula? We mentioned social and building culture around that. So what's the formula in building the restaurant/lifestyle brand?
I think there's a great book called Start With Why, and I think it's sort of, if you don't understand who you are and what you're trying to do, that's sort of like the basic, like what is your why, right? So he mentions something super cool about people that were building railroads back in the day. They wanted to be the best builders of these tracks. But they, instead of focusing on that, they should have focused we want to be in the business of transportation, right? So the moment that the airplane came out, they were out of business, right? So I think you have to understand that who you are as a brand. What is it that you want to be? Once you realize that, you can start building a culture around it, because culture, it takes purpose. You can't rally a group of individuals if you don't know your purpose. I think it starts there, and then after that, it's a little bit of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
What would you add?
So, to kind of build on that point, for And Pizza, we are focused around a culture that is all about our people. And I think coming back to kind of having a filter and being very specific and intentional about how you communicate with both your people and your guests, looking at everything that you do within that lens and having a point of view, no matter what that is, and being somewhat unapologetic about that, is certainly, I think, part of our formula at And Pizza. And as some of you know, Michael has been very active on Capitol Hill as it relates to raising the minimum wage, and that extends beyond just, him pushing forward in more of a public forum for that. He does that with all of his employees on, a monthly, daily, quarterly basis, and we make business decisions essentially based on what our people are telling us. Everything down to the music in our shops, to the benefits that we offer to people, full-time, part-time, to the uniforms that they wear and what apparel partnerships we should consider. So it is, thinking about everything within the lens of your people is something that's super motivating to me, and I think to the rest of the organization.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and I agree with those things. You talk a lot about purpose, and it all starts with caring very deeply about something, whatever it is you're doing, whatever your company does. If it's done without a sense of real
It has to be genuine,
care,
right?
and genuine care. If you're obsessive about it, if you truly love it, I think that comes through. Companies that evolve into lifestyle brands or become lifestyle brands, for the most part, I don't think set out with that purpose in mind. Maybe today that's different, but for the most part, I think they became lifestyle brands because they did something so intensely. They did it out of a personal conviction or love for the product, making the best food you can make, the best milkshake you can make, the best whatever it is. And that personal inspiration was visible in the way the product communicated, and people saw that, said, people love passion, they're drawn to passion. And when that's visible, it creates a sense of meaning around the thing
Right.
that wouldn't be there if it was just a product of dispassionate work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Agreed.
When I think about passionate work, I think about an authentic connection. I think about feeling it, as we've mentioned. When we have a technology forward industry now, everyone jumping on social media, could you still have an authentic connection there? Do you think
Absolutely.
you can.
still do that with consumers in this
Yeah.
industry?
Absolutely.
And how do you go about that?
It's the bigger you get, the harder it is for you to be intimate. People. We are in a generation where people, when they look at you as a chain, all of a sudden
Yes.
they discredit you as being authentic.
Right.
So it's a lot more work.
Yeah.
But it involves the right partnerships, the right investment in the communities, the right involvement with key brand ambassadors, initiatives. It's a lot of work. But again, it goes back to what you said, which if it's genuine, it just sort of everybody buys into it, and then it just happens, right? It's very hard to build that if the leaders in the company are not. It doesn't come from a source of of being an honest passion for the brand.
Right.
It just sort of doesn't work.
Yeah. So in addition to maybe social, what are some of the other elements that you add to this formula, I would say, of building a lifestyle brand? What are some of the other elements? Events, engagement, what do we do?
I mean, for us, when you say events, the first thing that comes to mind is Pi Day weddings.
Yeah.
So every year, since 2015, we actually host couples in our shops and we pay for their wedding.
It's incredible.
And yeah, so
That's the coolest.
yeah, it's so much fun. And Michael, our founder, officiates the weddings along with a handful of other employees. And just this past March, we married 20 couples
That
across
is so incredible.
yeah, across all of
That's
our
awesome.
markets. So, and what it goes back to really is what we stand for as a brand. And ampersand to us means connection, inclusion, and unity. And so what better way to celebrate unity than uniting two people in our shops and paying for them to get married? So it's truly remarkable and just so much fun.
Yeah. You have to tell stories that are beyond your product, right?
Yeah.
So when every single post matters, like we obsess about the copy, we obsess about the shot, the angle, what is it that we're trying to say? Because a picture will be interpreted by 1,000 people very differently. So we sort of craft these stories so it's beyond the food. So we're like, hey, we're Pincho. Sure, we sell food, but we're more than just that, right?
Yes.
There's a person behind this post, and this is what we stand for, and this is what we believe in. And we try to be as relevant as possible with what's happening in the world. Then they feel that, oh, you know what? That's not a robot. That's okay. They watched Game of Thrones last night and
Yeah.
they said something about it. So you start building that connection, and people all of a sudden they love to consume your content, even though it's the same picture of food or the picture of a person. It's just they genuinely feel a connection to your brand. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said about collaboration. There's a lot of companies that are super focused on making one thing or making their products, and that's what they do, and they make their products, and very little happens outside of the manufacturing of that thing. But I think when you look at lifestyle brands, big and small, one of the things that seems to be common in them is that they do things outside of making their product. They, they get involved with music, or they get involved with weddings, or they collaborate with other companies that do similar things or have similar values, and they support activities outside of their core business, and that's part of what gives them a little bit of personality is they behave as a multi-dimensional
Yes.
entity, and not just a maker of something.
Right.
They engage with the world around them, and that's really powerful. Because then you start to see people make these connections. We used to do a lot of music collaborations with artists who were fans of the coffee, and so we'd make a Mad Lib, Stone's Throw blend, or we had the guys from Wilco who were local once came and made a coffee for themselves and brought it out on tour, and those kind of collaborations also really send the message to people that, while this may be a simple thing, it's coffee, there's more to it's a part of a larger world. And the company that's behind it is working in that world and working with people outside of the specific industry.
That's incredible. I think that working all of these different elements brings that added value, that added experience. And when a consumer, we can all take off our work hats at one point and become the consumer. The consumer today is looking for more, and we can't blame them for that, right? If we're willing to shift a little bit of who we are, I think that they, in a way, begin to fall in love with us, right? They begin in that infatuation stage. They come in and they have this great experience on our product in the beginning, but then they experience a little bit more of what we have to offer, and this really great connection begins to build. It's an experience that can last years, decades, and a lifetime when you think of some of the best lifestyle brands in the world. And I love what you're saying about it. It's authenticity, it's passion, it's strategy, it's real connection. That seems very exciting. And how would we then, if there's a new restaurant goer, how would we connect to them if they're just hearing about us and they haven't experienced this yet outside of social? In that one time, what do we have to add when they reach the POS station or when they go to try our product for the first time? Is it company culture? What is really going to drive that connection at that point if they haven't really gone in depth with us yet?
So one of the things that we do in our training, right? And we say, try to connect with every guest that walks in the building. Somebody comes and stands in the counter and they place an order. Ask them, how's their day? Talk about the weather. I really like your shoes. I love your hat. Just connect with them as if you were just saying hi to a friend. And that's part of our training. One, it's a fun place to be for our team members. So now you're not just doing a job, you're just having fun. And you're like, hey, what's up? What's going on? Welcome to Pincho, this and that. And then two, it automatically connects with the consumer. And they're like, okay, I see this. This is not, I'm not used to this, right?
Yes.
I really like this place. These guys are awesome. So you have to, you sort of have to build a framework around it, but we try to go above and beyond to connect, right? So going back to what I was telling you guys earlier about the book, Start With Why. So we sat down and we're like, what's our why, right? Like, why are we here? What's Pincho? Like, what's the business of Pincho? And then we figured out that we're connecting people through food, right? So we focus on experience. Yes, we sell Latin street food, burgers and pinchos and whatnot. But at the end of the day, we're selling an experience. And if that's our North Star and we're constantly focusing on this is what we do. We sell experiences. And if we keep focusing on that, we will never, be behind. And I think that's sort of the level of understanding of who you are needs to happen. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so, I do think it comes down to culture. And I think, Otto, you hit on this. For sure. For us, if you walk into any of our shops, you feel the energy, you hear the music bumping. It's not for everyone. Yeah. But that comes back to the specificity. Yeah. And we know that we are building a brand for our people. And if that's the music they like and that's the volume that they want to hear it in the front and the back of the house, they're going to have fun at work. And that will pay dividends to the consumer. And I think what's really remarkable is when we start to invest in just little things like that, let's ask our people what music they want to hear. Let's, talk to them about what's on their mind through a text line it's not a chat bot or someone in corporate communications. It's actually, a 23-year-old, person who I can't stop texting because he's so fun to talk to. Right. Just kind of crazy, non-traditional ways of connecting with people that I think lead to this feeling, especially as you scale, of, hey, this company cares about me, and I love everyone that I work with, and I want to be a part of this. I want to think like an owner. I want to build this. I want to grow the brand together. And at least for us, we've certainly seen that translate into our online reviews. And I think it's very, as restaurateurs, we're always looking at what other people are saying about us online. There's certainly a lot of power in Yelp and Google and Facebook, and that's something that we're really proud of, is the fact that we have 4.5 stars or higher on Yelp. And I think it is, if you read through some of the commentary, it's, tribe members' names are mentioned in the reviews. It's so-and-so greeted me at the door, or, so-and-so was dancing to the latest Cardi B song behind the line. I couldn't, not participate. So
right.
I definitely think culture is the biggest part for us.
Yeah, that's huge. When people go to your place, they're making a decision to go there rather than any other number of pizza places or coffee shops or burger joints that you could find.
Right.
And part of what makes them want to come is experience and how they feel when they walk in. Right. And I know that's mostly people, who's talking to them, and are they having fun when they walk in because somebody who's there taking care of them is happy that they're there. And then things like music that really give people a sense of belonging. They're like, hey, I dig this stuff. I look around. Design is good. I feel comfortable in this space because of the people and the look and all of that. But then the other piece is what else can you give people? I think we all try to give people the best tasting thing we can give them, the most delicious, most highly curated thing we can give them. But with coffee, there's literally 6 coffee shops on many streets in Chicago, and trying to give somebody a reason to come back to yours beyond the look and the feel. What I've seen over the last years is a lot of coffee shops have started looking more and more alike. They've all adopted a similar aesthetic.
Right.
And we early on focused everything on product quality. That was it. It was like, that's the only reason you should ever need to have to come here is the taste. But over time, we've learned there's a lot more we can give people that can help them connect with specifically our coffees, and that is using coffee as a vehicle to allow people to connect with other cultures, other places, places they may never visit in their life, places they may never have heard of, like Rwanda or Ethiopia or Malawi or Bolivia. And we tried to draw them a little deeper into the reasons and the things about coffee that made us fall in love in the first place, which is the story, the people behind the coffee, the place, and the culture behind and traditions behind each individual coffee, and all of the variables that influence its flavor. And so that was something we really deliberately made an effort to give people when they come. If they want to just come and have a tasty cup of coffee, they can. But if they want more than that, that's there for them. The more they're willing to spend time talking to the barista or sit and read the packaging or delve deeper into what's behind the brand, they can learn about coffee. So I think that's part of it too, is figuring out what can you give people beyond the product and the space.
Mm-hmm. So would you be willing to maybe each of you provide some examples of how you specifically have built your lifestyle brands? Let's start with you, Otto.
There's so many things that we do. There's the small little things, right? The way that we answer to people on social is key. So like we actually go above and beyond to think about, how to answer specific questions and show personality, right? For example, this was really fun actually. Some kid commented on one of our pictures that he drove all the way down from North Carolina to Orlando, and he was thinking of Pincho the entire way because he's seen our posts, and he was super excited to eat at the store, but our store in Orlando was closed, and then he couldn't. So I was there and I read the comments like, you know what? Hey man, that really sucks.
Yeah.
How about this? Pick a weekend we'll send you a flight plus hotel. Come to Miami, eat Pincho, and you get your fix.
You have to be kidding
Yeah,
me.
I mean, what's gonna cost us?
That's
What, $500, $700?
Right.
It went viral, right?
Yeah.
And I was literally just like, you know what? Why not? Just bring them on to Miami. Here, hang out. So these are the things that
That's incredible.
we try to do.
Yeah.
And then people are like, oh man, there's a person behind that account. It's not just some chatbot answering
Yeah.
hi, thank you.
Yeah.
So little stuff like that really matters. Yeah.
That's-
No,
that's
I
one,
love-
that's one example.
I love that. I mean, so in addition to the weddings, which I
Yes.
talked about earlier, we launched a text line just a couple of months ago, and
Oh, I saw that.
so it's pretty funny because this whole thing started out of how do we improve our communications mechanism with 500 plus employees, across 4+ markets, and we thinking about who our employees are, they're Gen Z, they're millennials, we were racking our brains about like, okay, it's not email, it's not a newsletter, it's not something that's like sent to our shop leaders and printed in the back and posted, like none of those things are working, so what is it? And we, not taking ourselves too seriously, we're like, okay, let's take a step back. They're in text message and they're on Instagram. So is it setting up a corporate Instagram account? No, probably not. They probably won't follow us, depending on what the content looks like. Let's try just texting them. And so we started by texting out our employee newsletter, and it just took off, and hundreds of organic conversations started.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And it comes back to, Otto, what you were saying about the voice of the brand. Right. And we took out any sort of kind of corporate speak in those communications, and we just kept it real. Like we used
Plain English.
emojis. We tapped into relevancy, and like it wasn't hard for us because we have the right people doing those things, right? So it definitely comes natural. We try not to overthink it, and we rolled it out to all of our guests. We put signage up in the shops. It has totally taken off, and we have so many amazing,
That's awesome.
amazing stories from guests, like a guy who spilled the garlic oil on his shoes, ruined the New Balance suede. We're like, all right, what do we do? Get his Instagram account. Let's do some stalking, see what his personal style's all about. Send him a new pair of kicks, and
That is so
I mean, that
cool.
word of mouth. It's like really bridging the
awesome.
online and offline, and thinking about traditional marketing tactics that you can achieve scale through communicating the right way and communicating through the right platforms.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. I love whenever a brand or company can establish a real dialogue with people. Even people who are admiring or engaging with the brand at a distance. That's meaningful because it demonstrates a desire to have meaningful conversation, and be connected not just as consumer and vendor, but in a different way, in a personal way. And a lot of the things as I think about what did we do to try to cultivate that, some were just mechanical. We're taking away, looking at the way people come into shops and buy coffee. They'd always come. There was a blueprint for it. You'd come in and there's a countertop, and you stand there and you order, and then you move down the line, and over here you get your coffee, and there's a bunch of stuff in between the people and the barista. That was one thing we did early on, was we cut out all those countertops, and we built. We thought about the idea of a coffee bar as a hair salon, where each barista is attending personally the person who comes in, and so we got rid of the counters. We put the espresso machines on pistons, floating pistons.
That's cool.
Oh.
That
That could move up and down depending on the height of the barista. We got rid of the multi-person system where somebody would take your money and the other one would hand you a drink, and just had one person with a POS in their hand who took your order, said hi to you, made your drink while you were there with them, and really fostered this communication. Recently, we've taken an approach to. We've realized, that there's no such thing as under communicating, and we just started a magazine called Ad Lucem that we put out quarterly, with the intention of of giving people a porthole into all the stuff that happens behind the scenes so that they can understand the company as a living, breathing entity and all the work that's behind a single cup of coffee and all the people who are behind it. There's another means of engaging beyond what you might get on the website or in the store.
I actually just remembered one, if I can share one more.
Of course,
this is one that was
of course.
really cool and funny. So when Tinder first came out, and it was cool, and we're like, okay, what do we do?
Yeah.
So our burger is actually very recognizable. Like one of them is a plantain like burger. It's called the Tostón Burger.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
So we created 2 accounts. So I think I was the guy. Yeah, I was the guy, and then my business partner was the girl, and then our profile picture was the picture of the burger, and then we just started swiping right to everybody around the area. It was right before Valentine's.
That was
And,
genius.
dude, we had thousands of matches. Tinder shut us down twice.
Oh, wow.
And then the thing was, it was like, hey, what's up? I'm like, give me your best pickup line, and I'm yours tonight. And then we had some crazy pickup lines. Like you should see some. I feel bad for women because the stuff that the men said to Nadal was just horrible. Like I was like, holy crap. But anyway, 400 plus people. I think we redeemed about 400 free burgers. So if you did a pickup line, just all right, that's awesome. That was really funny. Just go by the shop and get a Tostón burger on the house. So it went viral, and it's just little things like that that really connect with our core market. Yeah, so.
Wow. Well, there's a whole lot of creativity going on here, which is so appreciated. But at the same time, I think that one of the themes that we've heard throughout this podcast is just this idea of going back to basics.
Yep.
That connection. And for those brands, those restaurants that are just now starting off and wondering, how do I become them? How do I grow to that level? How do I reach that consumer? I think you've provided some really great insight on what's made you successful and that authentic, specific, strategic connection with the audience. And I just really appreciated your time and insight. I know that there's a lot of success to come from each and every one of you, and I cannot wait to check in to hear about all of these great ideas that will be coming in the future. So thank you so much. For more on Foodable and our Foodable IO podcast, please check in on foodabletv.com, on Foodable Plus, on iTunes, and of course we'll be on Amazon as well. Thanks everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Yareli.
Awesome.
Cheers.